Hi everyone, it's cooking club time again, and I'm so glad that you're joining me today. We really miss you, but it has been so wonderful to see you on our Zoom classrooms on Wednesdays, so I hope to continue to see you there. And also it's been really great to see your journal entries and the photos you've been sending, and also some have sent some videos of things that they're doing in the kitchen. So keep those coming because they really make our day. Like I said, we really miss you guys, and so anytime we can see some of the things that you're doing at home that are creative and continuing the work in the classroom in your house are just really helpful for us to see too. So today we are going to make pretzels. This was a recommendation from a student in Miss Janae's morning class. Like last time I asked for some suggestions on what to do this time. Got a couple of suggestions, and so we're going to make pretzels. And this is something that we've made before, but this is a different recipe and also something that you can do at home with your family. Very easy. Takes a little bit of time, but right now we have a lot of time in our house, so maybe something that you can try and explore. And so I will go ahead and start going over the recipe in just a minute. First, we're making sure that we wash our hands so that we don't spread any germs and that we're clean with our kitchen products. And then also a reminder to make sure that you are with a grown-up, and that a grown-up, a parent, grandparent, friend who's an adult or grown-up knows that you're in the kitchen with them and that they're okay with you helping them. There are some things today that we're going to do that involved the stove and also the oven. Those are things that the grown-up needs to do, and make sure you stay away because those are hot and can be unsafe. So please make sure that you follow those guidelines. But the other things like mixing the dough, those are some things that you can help out with, and measuring, getting the product, sprinkling the salt on the pretzels. So I think that we can get started with our recipe. In the recipe today for pretzels, we have yeast, warm water, sugar, butter, flour, and salt, and then also like a coarse salt. It doesn't have to be coarse salt. If you have it, that's great. They do make like a pretzel salt, or you could use kosher salt, but really any salt, because you want to add a little bit of flavor to it, will work. And so I'm going to get started here. Also, I'll send the recipe on an email to each family in case you want to do it. This one is a little bit more involved and needs some instructions, so if you're not able to follow along with all the ingredients, then at least you'll have a copy on your email. So first of all, I need to back up here. This is a dough that rises, and so typically with that, you're going to start with developing some yeast. And I don't know if you remember from the last time when we made pizza, but yeast needs to bloom. And so we'll start with some warm water. In this case, we have 1.5 cups of warm water. And then we're going to use a packet of dry yeast. Dry yeast usually comes in a packet and you just need one. Sometimes I bake a lot, so I buy it in bulk and it comes just like this. So I'm gonna have to measure it out, and that's okay too. It's 2 1/4 teaspoon of measured yeast if it's not in a packet. So I have my warm water here. I'm gonna put it in this bowl. And then last time we talked about how yeast gets really hungry and it likes sugar. What it does is it makes it kind of poof up and grow a little bit faster than if you don't use sugar. So I usually put just a little bit of sugar. It can be just like I don't know, even just a 1/2 teaspoon. You don't have to use it, but I find that it really helps in developing pretty quickly. And then I'm going to put in 2 1/4 teaspoon of the yeast. So there's 1 teaspoon, 2 teaspoons, and then, let's see, oh, that's an 1/8, getting it wrong. And an 1/8 of a teaspoon. going to take a whisk and just stir it all up. It takes about 5 minutes for yeast to develop and create a bloom. Stir that up and just set it aside. And then I have one that's already developed its bloom, and hopefully you can see this. You can see where it's kind of this little fluffy on the top, kind of foamy is maybe a better word for it. So this is all ready to go. And then we're going to wait on putting this in. We're going to measure out the flour. 4 1/2 cup of flour. So I need to get, hold on 1 minute. Remember last time when we measure, we want to make sure that we don't like just take a big, huge scoop here. We want to be able to level it off, because in baking and doughs and things that we bake, desserts, all of the measurements really need to be precise, because that's the kind of the makeup of the recipe that makes it work. So if you have too much of the flour, it's probably going to be a pretty dry pretzel and might not even rise. Probably more like a rock. So here's 1 cup of flour. We have 4 1/2, so I'm going to scoop a little bit more. 2 cups of flour. 3 cups of flour. 4 cups of flour. And then this is a 1/2 cup. So we'll get the 1/2 in there. Our next ingredient, 2 tablespoons of sugar. Here's my sugar, just regular table sugar. 1, 2. See what else is in our recipe? 2 tablespoons of melted butter. So this is melted butter, and I've already melted it, pre-melted it, but it's just 2 tablespoons, and then kind of cooled off a little bit. I'm going to show you what it looks like in here. Hopefully you can see it. So just the dry ingredients right now, a little butter, and 1 teaspoon salt. This coarse salt is going to wait until when we actually form the pretzels. So 1 1/2 teaspoon salt. Salt here. Okay. Then I'm going to get a little messy here, so I'm going to move some things around. I'm going to pour the yeast mixture in here. You can do this in a blender, like we talked about last time, but it's also, you don't need a blender. I make it easily with just my hands, and that is fine, but certainly you could use a blender if you want. So I'm going to pour this in. It just looks like this. All the flour with mixing on. And then I'm just going to kind of swirl it around and make it into a dough. It can take a while. Mixing it all in. Whoa. So I'm curious what you've been making at home. I know some people have made pizza, someone made a cake. I'm trying to think of what else people have made. I know somebody might have been making a pie, but they were peeling apples or something. Curious what you've been doing in the classroom, or not in the classroom, but at home. And we'd love to hear or see the pictures that you've been doing at home. Also, if you're interested in any kind of recipe, feel free to email me and I can get you a recipe. Some great ideas. so it's coming together. This takes a little muscle. Does anybody remember what this is? I bet some of you remember because we have done it before. So I'm gonna put this out and just try to knead the dough on a really clean surface. You could use a cutting board, or I clean this off so it's all ready to go. We're just gonna knead and try to get all of those little dry crumbs of flour mixed in. And this is great for parents out there, is just give student a little piece, and then they don't have to necessarily need this whole big dough, but they'll have a little piece to just do on their own. And it's kind of fun. So I'm just gonna make this into a ball. And you just wanna knead it until it is no longer sticky, and that all of the ingredients are incorporated. And then I'm going to put the dough in this bowl here. And we're going to let it rise until it is double in size. And depending on the temperature, today is pretty warm, so it might only take about an hour to double in size. Sometimes it can take 2 hours. You can put it by a heater. I usually just put it by my oven. It seems to be a warmer area in the kitchen, even though the oven's not on. But there's some lights and it makes it a little bit warmer. So I'm going to cover this with saran wrap and let it sit, and then we'll check on it in a little bit. All right? All right, looks like our dough is ready to form into pretzels. And so it's about 2 times the size in volume, and it's taken about an hour and a half in a warm space. So it's ready to make into pretzels. But first we're going to do a couple of things. First of all, you're gonna want a parent or a grown-up to put on the stove in a pot 8 cups of water. We're gonna boil that, and then also to the 8 cups of water, you're going to put in 1/3 cup of baking soda. And like I said, I'm gonna send out the recipe to all the families through email. So if you do want to do this at home, it's something that you can do, and you'll have the recipe there. You won't have to remember all of this since I don't have it written down. But you want to put that on the stove and bring it to a boil, because the pretzels are going to be boiled for about 30 seconds before we put them in the oven. And one of the reasons is, if you've noticed that pretzels have a real dark color on them, well, they don't come like that naturally. So if you don't actually boil them with the baking soda component, they're not going to turn out brown, and they're not going to have that pretzely flavor. They're going to be more just bland or blonde. And actually I have a couple examples here. Now this is, we're just going to make a pretzel, like little wands. This is a pretzel that does not have any of the coloring or baking soda added. It just was brushed with some egg wash. And this is one that was actually put into the boiling water with the baking soda. So you can tell there's a real difference, and they completely taste different as well. You can choose to do it either way, but this will give you more of a pretzel taste. And then next, before we roll out some of the dough, we're going to make an egg wash. So this is going to be after you put it in the water mixture with the baking soda. We're going to put an egg wash on it. And this involves a parent putting 1 egg yolk in with just about a teaspoon of water. And then egg yolks can have germs, food germs on them, so make sure a grown-up does this part so that it's safe and that you're not touching the egg wash part. That's all mixed together, and I'm going to use a little brush to brush it on the pretzels. And grab this. So now we're ready to roll out some pretzel sticks. And this is something definitely you students can do. So I'm going to start with a little bit of flour here because it's pretty sticky. And then you're going to want to roll it out make like balls. You can make it into a pretzel shape if you want. I find that it's a little hard when you're putting it in the water mixture because it can kind of fall apart. But the pretzel sticks worked really well. And you just want to roll them out like a snake, almost like you're doing Play-Doh. You pull them down. You could do it any way you want. And then I'm just going to put it on a tray for right now. And then we're going to put them in the boiling water. And then we'll cook them. But you can make these any way you want. You can make little balls. You can make half sticks. You can make them pretzel shaped. Any way that you would like. So I'm going to roll out some of these while I get the water ready, and then I'll see you. We'll put these in the water mixture and we'll get them in the oven. Okay, so we have our pretzels here, and this is something for a grown-up to do, but we're going to turn this down a little bit. Grown-ups, you'll want to put these pretzels in the water for about 30 seconds. We're not cooking them. We're just coating them so they make a nice brown crust on the outside when we bake it. And so like I said, this is 8 cups of water plus 1/3 cup of baking soda. Start taking these out. So after you take your pretzel sticks out of the water bath, we're going to brush them with this egg mixture. It's going to make it nice and glossy on top. And then we'll sprinkle some salt on. You could also make different flavors, like an everything bagel. You can make an everything pretzel. And we'll add a little bit of salt. And now it's ready to go into an oven. We're going to have the oven set at 375 degrees, and we're going to cook it until they're nice and brown. Okay, we're now ready to put these in the oven, and we have the oven on at 425 degrees. This is for a parent or grown-up to do, so make sure that you don't go near the oven, it's hot. And then we're going to have these bake for about 9 to 11 minutes until they're golden brown. Okay, the pretzel sticks have come out of the oven and they're nice and golden brown, as you can see. They're ready to come out. And they've been sitting for a little bit, so I'm going to pick one up and pull it apart. So you got a nice little fluffy pretzel inside for soft pretzels. These are great for dipping in a sauce, like in mustard or honey mustard. You could dip it in a cheese sauce or even ranch or whatever favorite dipping sauce that you have. I'm gonna try it. They're really good, and they're very easy to make and very fun. Like I said, I'm going to post the recipes on an email that I'm going to send out. I hope that you can make these at home and enjoy them with your family. All right, take care.